Have you been looking for a way to stay focused on your goals and grow your MSP? Accountability groups from RocketMSP can help. We offer weekly accountability sessions that meet online with a group of your peers. Your success begins with accountability. Go to www.rocketmsp.io to join your accountability group today. What we're going to do right now is we're going to wrap up the part one of the podcast now, and then I'm going to cut and trim and snip and snap and do some things on the audio, and at that point the next episode is kind of where we'll be then. So let's start part two now. Welcome back.
Nice to be back, Steve.
Yeah. So, we talked about, what is MSPMagic, your investors, developers, competitors, and even what it's like to get support from you. Now, I'd like to talk to you about some technical details. So now I've got to ask the really hard questions. I'm sorry. It's just got to be done. Where's our data stored?
Yep, easy. That's so everything's hosted inside Azure. Right now, we're hosting inside the Australia East data center. So that's in Sydney, Australia. The plan is, as the adoption of the product grows around the world, we'll have isolated deployments for those regions. So, for example, if you're a partner in North America, we'll deploy and host you in the future in one of the American data centers inside Azure. And if you're a European partner, we'll hold you in one of the European data centers that they have. And then we'll keep the Australian one for the APAC region. But today, it's in Sydney, Australia, in Azure.
All right. That's unfortunate for today, but that's fine. So if somebody says, I need data sovereignty, and they're in the EU, as of right now, there's really nothing you can do to help.
We can definitely talk about it. So if they are in a position, if they have a sufficient number of tenancies that we can sort of bundle together with a few other partners, we can look at sort of speeding up that release in the European data centers.
Okay. All right.
But to date, that question hasn't really come up with our partners so far.
Now, what about like multiple data centers? Because you said everything right now is in Sydney, but what if? And here's where I get real confused. You guys don't have hurricanes.
No, we have a lot of other things that will try to kill you, but not hurricanes. Oh, actually, no, we do have hurricanes. We have typhoons and hurricanes in Queensland. They wipe out the banana and sugar crops pretty frequently for us.
Dumb question. What's the difference between a typhoon and a hurricane?
I think one is inland, one's out in the ocean. I could be wrong.
I thought they were both in the ocean.
You know what? That is actually a part of science class and back in primary school. I didn't pay quite enough attention to.
Yeah, I told you I was asking tough questions. All right. All right. So, what if, you have one of these freaking Australian wildfires again, and it burns down your Sydney data center? Do you guys have something set up for like redundancy, high availability, and anything?
Yep. So we basically manage all of our infrastructure as code inside Azure DevOps. We do backups rather frequently, multiple times a day. So when it comes to recovering from a disaster like that, we could spin something up in America, Europe, somewhere else in Australia if it's not on fire, and be back up and running fairly quickly.
Okay. And you say fairly quickly. Are we talking seconds, minutes, hours?
I would probably say minutes to hours.
Okay. Less than a day, though.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Now, you said you guys do backups. When's the last time you've tested a restore of your backups?
Restores of backups, they're tested a couple of times a week. So we do that for pretty much our entire environment. Whenever we do a deployment of the code, we'll back everything up. We'll test the restore of that backup before we do a new release. That way, if something doesn't go quite as planned, we know at least that we have the backup and we know that we can restore it. So we can do a full rollback.
Excellent. Now, with you having access to our data, or at least I assume you have access to our data, it feels like you do, right? You meet some compliance, right?
Yeah, so we follow the Australian Data Privacy Act.
Okay. What about hashtag America?
Hashtag America. So we're not really like HIPAA compliant or anything like that. We're a fairly new company, so haven't quite gone down that path just yet. But we have started with ISO certification, looking into that. So that's something that's on our roadmap as well for us.
And you said ISO, so 27001?
Yep.
Excellent. So no HIPAA, not yet anyway. But starting on ISO, do you have to? And here's where I get confused. So you're not managing the data centers. Can you still become like SOC 2 compliant?
It's a good question, Steve.
Sure.
We're not sure.
All right. Well, I mean, I'm sure I could make you a SOC certification in Word real quick if you ever needed to show it to someone. But I have no idea how obviously in order to actually show and prove that you're compliant, you have to have an independent audit. You're nowhere near that type of process yet.
I mean, look, the thing is, given where we are in this process, it's still very early for us, and we're not long out of, I guess, testing the market to see, is this product going to sink or swim? And so, really, the next thing we're going to have to do is get onto this stuff. It's just hasn't been the number one priority at this point. But you're not the first person to ask these questions of us. And for this thing to truly be successful, we're going to have to do all those things. And of course, we want to do all those things. They're just they're not the easiest things to get done early when you're in startup phase for a number of reasons. And usually, I'll say cost and also allocating the resource and the time to get it done. They're quite intensive processes.
So, what kind of information are you guys theoretically, hypothetically, actually able to access once we start using your product?
Yep. So with the automation platform, because we are have the ability to change and enforce settings on tenants as well as read the settings. So we basically have the equivalent of global administrator access to the tenancies.
So you could, we're just going to play Let's Pretend, okay? So let's pretend a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad person starts working for MSPMagic. That person could log in to, we'll pretend I'm a customer. They can log in as me and start impersonating all of the administrator accounts for my clients.
They could, if employees had access to that. The only people that have access to that would be Tas and myself. So unless one of us has an evil twin brother that we don't know about, I think on that front we're pretty safe. We do have a fairly decent segregation, both as a policy but technically, between our dev testing environments and production. So we do protect production environment from that. And basically, nobody really has access to that from the dev side. It's only literally Tas and myself that would have access to that.
So that terrible, horrible, no good, very bad employee would basically have to socially engineer one of you in order to gain access to the production side. But what about the dev side? If they were an employee that is a developer, what is the possibility of them, slipping some secret code and doing something nefarious? I don't know what they can do with, changing the code, but like I'm looking back to, look at what happened at SolarWinds. Somebody did a thing and somehow started installing malware on some really important networks. So what's the likelihood that somebody can do this? Not will, but can.
Yep, look, really good question. Coming from that sort of MSP background, we are very conscious, very aware of security, that we do hold the keys to a lot of castles as MSPs. And then as MSPMagic, it's even greater again. So we've kind of engineered the product in such a way that there is a pretty big segregation between the different parts of the app. And it's broke up into 3 applications effectively. There's what we call the public environment, which is the web application that you would log into. You'd manage the customer's tenancies. And even from a partner side, if you're an MSP and you have a junior tech that goes in, doesn't really know what they're doing, they're very limited in terms of what they can do. They can enable MFA, things like that, but they can't from the MSP public app, read people's emails, delete users, anything like that. So that's what our developers have access to. They basically work on the public side of the application. What we then also have is what we call the protected environment, which is where the actual automation runs to enforce the settings on tenancies. That's where things like the credentials are stored inside Azure Key Vault. That's the part of the application that Tas and I have developed and work on and have access to. That's not something that others would have commit to. So you'd have to really sort of gain access to the protected and the public side of the application in order to do that. And the two kind of have to match. If something gets built in the public environment, the automation has to be made by us to support that as well.
Okay, so I'm just going to keep riding this train until it crashes, okay? So what if you guys have a falling out and Tas fires you? Do you have access to be like, F Tas, F MSPMagic, and just start screwing everybody?
No, I would just go to his house. That'd be a much easier solution.
So like you two theoretically have the keys to the castle. You two have the ability to really screw over a lot of MSPs and even more clients.
Yeah, look, we do hold the keys to the castle. Yeah, we do hold those keys to the castle, and that's kind of needed to do the level of automation that we do. It would probably be really worrying if we could do what we do in the automation enforcing settings without that level of access. That definitely would be some problems for Microsoft if that was possible. So there's definitely a large level of trust between us and our partners.
And what if you guys decide you want to go on vacation together with your families, and the plane crashes, everyone survives, but you're just all stranded on an island now. There's no internet. Nobody knows where you are, and you're lost forever. It's like that, what's that? Castaway with Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks, yeah. Castaway. There's Lost, Gilligan's Island. It sounds like a dream.
Yeah, Tas will be the guy talking to the soccer ball. So like if something happened and the two of you became incapacitated for whatever reason, now we don't have somebody that can develop the security portion of the application.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, we're just never going on holiday together is the answer to that, Steve.
Okay.
Yeah.
You don't really like him very well anyway, right?
No, it's a partnership formed out of necessity, not choice, really.
Okay.
But
so
we pretend.
Yeah.
It's a fake marriage.
Yeah, I'm going to learn like you guys are actually related somehow, and
we go to the same hairdresser. That's for sure.
Yeah, I can tell. Yeah, definitely not the same chef though.
No,
I can say that because Andre and I have the same chef.
Yeah,
that's not true. Mine feeds me a lot more. All right, so let's talk about some pricing stuff. Oh, wait. 2FA. Let's stick on security for just another moment.
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say I jumped the gun there, Steve. I apologize. But yeah, so 2FA is a good question. So we actually made a decision early on when it came to identity that rather than try to do that ourselves, we were just going to leverage what Microsoft have done, and use Azure AD as the identity piece for the application.
So basically, you just do single sign-on, instead of worrying about 2FA.
Yep. So
that's right.
Okay.
So really, it's up to the partner then to decide if they want to turn 2FA on. However, you'd probably be aware Microsoft made a change last year at some stage, which effectively said to access Partner Center, you need 2FA enabled on all of your accounts. I think it was all of your accounts, or the ones that have access to Partner Center at least. And really, to onboard to our app, if you don't have MFA turned on with the account that you try to onboard with, that MFA claim will be missing in the token, and we can't even get a list of your customers. So basically, Microsoft have done that part for us, and look, we think that they're going to do a much better job of securing identity than we will. So really, it was a no-brainer for Microsoft partners to use Microsoft Identity.
Very good. I like that. You're not making things harder than they need to be.
Nope.
Okay.
Simplicity is the key. We may say that a few times.
Can you say it one more time?
Not right now. I want to spread that out.
I just didn't hear what you said.
Oh, right. Simplicity is the key, I believe. Was that?
Yeah. I don't know what I thought you said then. All right, so let's talk about some pricing. So some of these other applications, they charge per administrator. Some of them charge like per end user, and then others charge per tenant.
Yep.
So you guys cost like $100 an end user?
Not quite. So again, just aligning with the simplicity model here, we landed on per tenant pricing model.
Okay.
We don't really, think it matters too much on the size of the tenant. So therefore, we just charge a flat fee per tenant, and we don't really have any concern about how many texts you have, how many users you have, anything like that. It's just one number per tenant, and that's it.
How much is it per tenant?
Well, at the moment, it's $20 a month per tenant.
Australian or?
That's US dollars.
So why do you advertise in US dollars when you're Australian?
Well, that's a good question. Andre, do you want to?
Sure. So I think USD is probably a much more widely accepted currency globally than the Australian dollar. And with the recent sort of changes in the direction that Microsoft's going, they've recently moved their Azure consumption to all be metered in USD as well. And I think in the next year or so, they're also planning to do the M365 to be metered in USD. Whereas a lot of countries like Australia, for example, right now we pay in Australian dollars to Microsoft, but the metering on Azure happens still in USD with like an FX rate. So I guess it's really just kind of trying to align a little bit closer to what Microsoft does. So not straying too far away from it, just makes it that little bit easier for partners to sort of get up and running with the product. Whereas if we entirely reinvent the wheel or stray from the norm, it's just unnecessary changes and difficulty.
Cool. And are you going to sell to whoever wants to give you money, or only MSPs or Microsoft partners, I should say?
Yeah, MSPs were the only ones that can use the product. A very key part of the MSPMagic is that it does integrate with your Microsoft Partner Center to get your list of clients that you want to onboard. So if you're an end customer, you won't have access to Partner Center. Thus, MSPMagic won't work for you. And being in the name, we're very heavily focused on MSPs. We have had a few requests from end customers to use the product. We just don't really feel that it's a great fit for individual companies to use.
Hey, thanks for listening to part 2. Check out the demo on YouTube to see this thing in action. Be sure to check back tomorrow for the next episode.